Good morning. So, a few months ago, I did a show called Saving Bobby. And, it's interesting that that show became my biggest ever show in the history of my show, of me. It had over 5,000 views on Facebook alone and 20 shares. On YouTube, it hit the ceiling. It almost went viral. At least for me, it did. And I think the reason that the show about Saving Bobby was so popular was because it affects so many people. A lot of people saw themselves in Bobby's and his family's story. Most importantly, his family story. And I'm revisiting Bobby's story today because you all know, because I've been very open about it, that I've been going through some really rough times. That 2018 did not start out well for me. But in my deep, dark depression, trying to accept my new normal over this past weekend, I started going through different Facebook things because I really didn't have anything else to do because I suspended my show and I missed all of you so much. So I just started going around the internet, and lo and behold, I found a story that shocked me that Bobby's mother shared on her Facebook timeline. And it is about how families, parents of opioid addicts and heroin addicts are being judged. That somehow it's their fault that their children have fallen into the abyss of drug abuse. Really? It's not the dentist's fault that prescribe opioids when a 16-year-old or 17-year-old has their wisdom teeth out. It's not their fault. It's not the pharmaceutical companies that make these drugs, these painkillers that they know damn well right are addictive. I'm doing a smoking show tomorrow. And it's funny how the tobacco industry has been held accountable for making a product that is addictive, according to the courts, and causes illness in some people. They've been held accountable, but the pharmaceutical companies have never answered for the opioid crisis in our country. They've never answered for why a 17-year-old who has their wisdom teeth out, instead of being told to go home and take a few Aleve or Tylenol and deal with a little bit of discomfort for a few days and just put on your big boy pants and get over it, why they are given a 10-day supply of Vicodin or Oxycodone. Nobody has ever questioned these people, and I'd like to know why. Instead, there was an article that attacked the parents. Now look, I'm going to backtrack a little bit just in case you didn't see my show, Saving Bobby, although 5,000 people saw it, so I'm assuming most of you did. I'm not a prescription drug girl. You know that. I don't use prescription drugs. I have had them in the past. I've had bad experiences. I don't approve of them, and I will not use them. And so I thought, well, the opioid crisis, it's not going to affect me. And yet it did. It came to my back door when I was grilling some food at the Bay last summer. When a dear friend of mine came to me and said, "Can you please come talk to me? I have a show for you." I don't know where my son is. He's addicted to heroin. Doing that show brought the opioid crisis, the heroin crisis, really close to me because this is a lovely family. And so this weekend, when I read this story that parents of drug-addicted children are being shamed and blamed. Oh, you must have done something wrong when you parented your children. That's why your kid's on the streets. You don't know where your kid is right now. No. See, that's wrong. Now, before I did Bobby's story, I may have agreed. Yeah, what kind of a parent allows their child to get hooked on opioids, get hooked on painkillers, get hooked on drugs? But I know this family. I know the other children that these parents raised who are wonderful, awesome kids. And I know that this mother goes to bed every night thinking about the child she lost to the opioid and heroin crisis. The child she still to this day does not know where he is, if he's alive, if he's dead. And I can't imagine such hurt, such pain. But I can imagine the pain that's greater is when you are blamed for your child getting hooked on illegal drugs. Almost like what do you think you're doing? What do the people who write this crap think parents are doing? Buying their kids heroin? Teaching them how to cook it and shoot up? Do people who write horrible comments like it's your fault your kid's addicted to heroin, do they really believe that any parent gets up in the morning and says, wow, I hope today's the day my kid becomes an addict? What kind of craziness exists in the minds of people who would write something like that? And let me tell you what I wrote in response to that judgmental comment. I wrote, look, it's been over the holidays, and every freaking day, every 5 minutes, there was something on TV about St. Jude Children's Hospital for Cancer and Shriners Hospitals for Children, and how they want your donations. No parent is ever charged. Parents were on TV every day because they are fighting for their children's very lives. Their children are fighting cancer, and those parents are heroes. But a parent of a drug-addicted child, which, by the way, drug addiction is just as much an illness as cancer is considered an enabler or blinded or, doing too much or not doing enough. It's like a drug-addicted parent can't win. A parent of a drug-addicted child cannot win. It's either their fault because their child is hooked on drugs, or they're helping them out too much, which enables them to stay on drugs. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think we can call parents who fight for their cancer-riddled children heroes and not also consider parents out there who deal with drug-addicted adult children, by the way. Adult children, many times. And we don't consider them heroes. We consider them somehow, they should be ashamed of themselves. I don't agree with that. It's wrong. There are wonderful parents out there. Yes, there are some really crappy parents out there who probably don't give a shit if their kids are out in the streets scoring heroin, scoring crack, selling their bodies for drugs. There are parents out there like that. But the parents I talk to whose kids have drug problems, and there's been a few, especially this past summer, they're not bad parents. They're heroes too. And I'll tell you why they are real heroes is because they can't control what's going on with their children. Because their children are adults. They can't force them to get help. They can't force them to go into rehab. But for some reason, when their children do reach out to them and say, well, Mom, I'm going to get better. I just need some money. And the parent gives them the money in hope that maybe this is the time it's going to work. They're going to get clean. And the kid takes off and buys drugs with that money. The parent's to blame? How many of you out there who have children that you gave birth to, that you love, that you raised when they were born, and you promised to take care of them as best you can, how many of you could slam the door in the face of your emaciated adult child when they come to your door and say, Mom, I need help. Dad, I need help. Could you just slam the door in their face? Or would you hope maybe this is the time? They're going to get help. They're going to come back to me. The child that I raised, the happy, beautiful, smart child that I raised will come back from the abyss. And you know, maybe these parents are naive when they do everything they can just because they are so happy to know where their child is when they knock on that door, asking for money, promising to get clean, maybe even hanging out for a week. And then they go back to their old ways. And you're heartbroken. And you don't sleep because you don't know where your child is sleeping. But you had those 5 or 6 days where they came home to people who love them no matter what. And it really upset me when I read that people are being judged for opening the door to a child they gave birth to. And I think that any parent who would slam the door in their child's face when they come to you for help, I think those are the parents that we should be judging. Not those that, when they see their child standing before them, maybe not looking the best, maybe needing a shower, needing help, at least their child is alive. And that is a gift that warms a mother and a father's heart. Yes, that child may steal money from them to go out and continue to use drugs. But I think there is always that hope that the next time they knock on the door, they're going to be asking for help and they're really going to want it. And maybe this time it'll work and you'll get your child back. The child you taught how to ride a bike without training wheels. The child you had braces on. The child you nursed through chicken pox or really bad colds or bronchitis. The child whose miseries you tried to empathize with and whose joys you celebrated. You can't judge any parent for opening that door. And you certainly can't judge any parent for wanting that knock on that door to come. There are parents all over this country tonight that will not know where their children are, where they're sleeping, if they have a roof over their head. It's freezing cold in the Northeast. They don't know where their children are. They don't know what kind of people they're dealing with. They only know that their children are sick. Just as sick as those cute little kids at St. Jude who have cancer. And whose parents would give anything and do anything to stop their child's suffering. Well, my friends, opioid and heroin addiction is an illness just like cancer. And there isn't a cure. There isn't anybody out there doing research saying no parent will get a bill when you bring your drug-addicted child to this place. It's a lot harder for these parents. And for them to be judged and not called out to be the heroes that they are, living with a drug-addicted child. I think that's wrong, and it made me angry. And reading that actually made me want to bring my show back, to revisit Bobby's story. Because Bobby's still out there. And as I said before, and I said this to Bobby's family, I wake up every morning, even when I'm in a bad mood or bad things are happening to me, I wake up and at least once, twice, 3 times a day, I think about Bobby. And I wonder where Bobby is. And I'm not his mother, I'm not his sister, not his sister-in-law. I've actually never met Bobby. But I've talked to the people who love him and so want him to get well, just like the parents of St. Jude cancer-stricken children want their children to get well. So yeah, I think about Bobby a lot. And I think about his wonderful mother, and his stepfather and his father and his brothers and sisters who love him so much. And I wonder if he knows how much love is out there. And that me, somebody he's never met, would be so happy one day to walk up to Bobby and give him a big hug. I would like to walk up to a clean, heroin, drug-free Bobby who is rebuilding his life after coming through a horrific illness. Just as I hug my friends who've been through cancer and beat it. Like, so happy you beat it. I hope one day I will get to give Bobby a big hug. And I also hope that when Bobby hopefully gets well, he will understand the heroes who fought for him. Heroes he doesn't even know. And of course, the most important heroes. His mom, his dad, his stepdad, his brothers, his sisters. People who are waiting for Bobby to come home. And people who don't care if he knocks on the door because he needs help or he needs money or he's not doing so great. They just want to hear that knock on the door. And they want to see their son. And these parents are heroes. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Political Paula, out.